Morning, y'all. We're in the barn with the meat bird flock. They're in production for poultry. So this is day 29 of production. So it's actually about 9 a.m. August 22nd, 2024. Last time I personally was in the barn was about 10:30 the evening of August 21st. So last night from when I'm recording this. I'm actually quite encouraged stepping into the barn this morning. We have 425 Cornish rock cross meat chickens here that are in production for poultry. Actually have 420 in this finish pen that you're looking at, and we have more or less an intervention pen going as well with 5 birds in it that are for some reason or another not able to stay in the flock at large for their own benefit. So I'll show you those real quick. So we've basically just moved these birds from that side of the short wall to this side of the short wall. We haven't set up any additional barriers for them. They're not going to go far. What initially got them over here was decreased mobility. So quite frequently, and you can see, I think you can see as we look at them in general, these are smaller than the ones on the other side of the wall. So what got them on our radar that they needed intervention was decreased mobility. And when you have decreased mobility, you're probably going to have stunted growth because the bird probably couldn't get to food and water. But I want you to take a look at this one, okay? So there's 5 over here. That one's moving really good. When it was brought over here, it couldn't walk well. It had a significant limp. This one just walked to water on its own. This one's walking okay, but I want you to take a look at that bird. So actually, we're really shocked that that bird is still with us. If you want to know what a Cornish rock cross meat bird looks like in heart failure, that's it. Okay? You can see just a really distressed look in the face. I know it's turned its head kind of away, but even in the eyes. This is in pretty advanced stage of heart failure. In fact, advanced enough stage of heart failure for this bird, it would be reasonable to cull this bird and humanely go ahead and dispatch it. If I have to spell that out anymore, then we're just going to leave it lay. So, you either, if you know, you know. If you know what I mean, you know what I mean. But it would be reasonable at this advanced stage of heart failure in this bird to say, we're going to cull that bird. We're going to just look how much better this one's moving. It couldn't walk when we set it out here. None of these 5 had good mobility when we set them out here. All right. Now, this one, that one has regained some of its size. I need to clean their water out. But this one, it's not gonna catch up. Okay. It's also not going to improve from this condition. I mentioned how distressed and rough the face is looking. Also how puffed out and kind of frayed the feathering is looking. And even on the back of the neck, we get a real distinctive, just not as healthy looking texture. Okay, the other thing I'm hoping to get to show you, I'm going to just kind of gently try to move this bird's wing back. You can kind of see, you really aren't getting it on camera, but we can definitely see in the legs, like taking on almost a bluish purplish look. Let me see if we can get a look. Okay. Yeah, he's like, don't mess with me. Don't mess with me. I know, birdie. I know. You kind of can tell that I'm going to try to hold the bird from the front. Okay. Okay. Just get a look at the skin tone. Okay. Almost, I know, almost a bluish purple. Almost a bluish purple. Whereas, if we can look at skin tone on some of these birds that are really thriving, it's just a healthy pale pink tone. Okay. So, and then also, let me see if I can kind of zoom in towards some of the roosters. Even the color of the comb and the wattle, like we see, that's a hen like closest to us here, but 2 roosters sitting by the fan, okay? Real healthy skin tone in the comb and the wattles, and that's an indicator of good health. Okay, so when we get with a poor little birdie like this, all right, see how the comb, and this one can move now, but this one's just not thriving anymore because it's in a real advanced, it's a wonder it's still moving. But you can kind of see, I was trying to get even closer there, yeah, you can kind of see how pale the comb is, or we could. This one's healthier, okay? But we really thought this bird closest to us there, that one, would probably have passed away before now. And you probably noticed in the beak, it's kind of like, there we go, it's kind of turning toward us, a little bit gaspy as it breathes. Feathers are definitely puffed out. So that bird is just not feeling well. Manure quality is declining. We just saw that there. And this is heart failure, okay? So we're surprised that bird is still with us. We kind of wrote that bird off a few days ago, but that one's not going to recover. We're trying to make it as comfortable as possible. And if we had left that bird on the left there in that pen at large, I'm almost certain it would have already passed away of its own natural accord, because it just would not have been able to compete with all those birds. And there's just more normal stress inside that pen that bird wouldn't be able to cope well with, okay? But all 5 of these birds that we pulled out and put in intervention have actually done so much better because we've done that. So of these 5, we can feel pretty assured. We know that 4 are definitely gonna finish as far as being alive and viable for poultry at the end of production. They're not, those 4 probably aren't going to get the size that hopefully the rest of the flock gets, but they wouldn't have stood a chance in here when they had decreased mobility, okay? So, as I said, it's been like overnight since I've been in here. So as I'm walking in here, I'm going to be doing chores, and that's one reason things look kind of a total mess, and we have some feed trays that we want feed in empty that we need to add feed to, clean up. But one thing I want to tell you, I'm real encouraged. For one thing, the guys did get some fresh bedding down on the floor last night. We didn't overdo it on that because we're very near the end of production, honestly. But we made sure, we talked about we need to focus on bedding well around the waters. So you almost can kind of see, it's not stripes, but you can definitely tell the bedding was emphasized around the rows where the waters are. Because where these birds stand at water, and we just saw in the intervention pen, they were standing at food and we saw some manure. When these birds are standing at waters, a lot of times they're also manuring there. And sometimes the water gets, dripped out of their beaks even around the water. So around the waters is going to be a place where you get really poor floor quality, okay? So when you're bedding, if you have to pick and choose how heavy you're going to bed different spots of your pen, you're probably going to put more bedding around your waters, all right? So as we're walking around, they're going to be reactive and responsive and getting up and moving, and we kind of want that because clearly they've been resting a while, so they need to get up and move. So we probably will add a little more bedding. These birds have exactly 1 more week in production. This is Wednesday, August 22nd. They leave on Wednesday, August 28th. So they leave early on that day, August 28th. So we just have really probably about 5 days that we're feeding, 5 more days that we're putting feed in, because when they leave on the 28th, that's early in the morning. We're not adding feed that day. The day before, which will be August 27th for them, is feed withdrawal. If you're raising meat birds, use that practice, please. Do feed withdrawal 12 to 18 hours before you process your birds or before their processing appointment with a processor. That helps the butchering and processing be much cleaner, more hygienic, more sanitary. You want to make that as sanitary as possible. So they won't get feed added on the 27th because that'll be feed withdrawal. So the last time actually we'll put feed in is the 26th. So 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. That's 5 more opportunities, 5 more days for us to add feed into this flock. So the thing I was encouraged about is when I came in here last night, all the feeders had been filled and all the feeders had feed heaped up above the top of the feeder, okay? Like here's one, it's at the top of the feeder and at the top of the feeder there, but it was heaped up above the top of the feeder in all the feeders. So the fact that as I'm looking at the pen, the feed has dropped below the top of the feeders and there's only a few feeders where I can see it even close to the top is really encouraging because it means these birds had a good heavy appetite last night. They went and ate a lot, okay? And today is supposed to be mild temperatures that will be suitable to them. They want it to be no more than 80 degrees Fahrenheit and in this range of 75 degrees Fahrenheit to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. That is relative to them being Cornish rock cross meat chickens and relative to the age that they are, 4 weeks old. We know that's a reference point for the ambient temperature that they prefer, that's comfortable to them. And the more comfortable they are, the more they express their appetite. And actually, we need them to eat. Because just like I told you, hey, this is encouraging, this is good stuff. Seeing the fresh bedding down on the floor, seeing they've eaten quite a bit overnight. This is all real encouraging. This is good stuff. Here's what's discouraging. We just did some numbers. We know we have 5 days to feed birds. All that feed right there, I want to get all that feed in these birds in 5 days. So what's there? I'm counting the rows from the bottom, and they're in layers of 5 bags a layer. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. So there's still 27 bags of feed there. 27 bags of feed there and 5 days to put feed in. So chances are, I can run the numbers. If they may only be, on a good day, they may only be eating 200 to 250 pounds of feed a day. I know they only put in 150 pounds of feed yesterday. So if we could get 4 bags in them a day, we're only going to feed about 20 bags of that. So we're going to have 7 bags left over. So what that means is we're under the really ideal feed consumption target for meat birds for start to finish, because our experience is we need them to eat 10 pounds of feed per bird average, okay? But we've based that also on a 6-week production schedule, and and we had made that number 4,000 pounds because we based it on 400 birds. So you know, if I got real critical of my math, I would probably take into consideration, okay, well, we're going 5 weeks instead of 6, so that's 5 days shorter. But we also have 25 birds over, you know, the 400 bird reference point on that math. So, you know, so that would affect the numbers. So maybe considering that we're going a week shorter, we'd be right on.